Welcome to Review Journal, sports betting spotlight in the NFL playoffs, the divisional round. We're here at the Palm Sportsbook, joined as always with handicapper Kelly Stewart, Kelly in Vegas, and CG Technology Sportsbook Vice President Matt Holt. Thanks for joining me, guys. We'll give you 3 picks on the NFL, 2 sides and a total. Kelly, why don't you lead us off? Who are your first 2 plays?
I guess you guys probably already going to know. I'm going to play the Vikings this week because why not? It's the Vikings. You guys, I've been saying this for 19 weeks now. It's the Vikings, you guys. Coach Zimmer, love him. I don't care who's under center. That Vikings defense is so incredibly awesome. First, second, and second, which Todd's going to get into because I'm stealing that from him. Against the run, points allowed, scoring defense, against the pass. This team is absolutely amazing. We saw them and what they did to the Saints team. I think it was week 3 or was it week 1?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Time
flies when you're having fun. Either way, Saints are just 4-4 against the spread on the road this year, so I am going to fade them. I understand Case Keenum's kind of the X factor here. Matt was kind of ragging on me before we started about how well those inexperienced quarterbacks did last week, but I don't care. That being said, my second play is going to correlate just like last week. I'm going to go with the over. 46.5. Sharp guys already kind of beat this one up a little bit. It's already up 2 points higher than I wanted to, but I'm not going to sweat it. Just like last week, the over came in. The Saints were up 31-13 and allowed the Panthers to get back in, get the backdoor cover against the -7, but the over hit pretty easily, so I'm going to go with it again this week in hopes the Saints defense allow Case Keenum to score like 31, 35. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, 31-19 in the backdoor cover. Thanks for bringing that back up. I was trying to black that out. But Matt, who are your first 2 plays?
I'm going to go with the Tennessee Titans. It hurts my feelings as a Patriots fan to say this, but I mean 13.5 in the playoffs anyway just opens up so many realms of possibilities, including the backdoor cover here, especially with a number that high. And let's face it, the Patriots team a little bit banged up here. James White, Rex Burkhead, Kevin Hogan, receivers and backs all banged up. That tends to hurt the practice leading up to this game as you can't have all the players on the field going into the game. Look, Tennessee knows what they have to do to be in this game. Run the football, shorten the clock, shorten the game. That's what they're going to do here. It's likely, I actually think the under is probably much more likely than the over here for that same reason. Thus, I think the points become more of a premium when you think the game's going to be a little lower scoring. And the weather, not great in New England. Precipitation expected, about a 50-50 chance of rain. Not cold enough to snow as it's supposed to be in the 40s. But if we get a little rain, it only takes it to drop a few degrees. That rain will be snow, so we could get some weather too. I'm going to go ahead and take the 13.5 with the Tennessee Titans. I'm going to take under 41.5, Pittsburgh, Jacksonville. Anytime you throw 5 interceptions against a team and a defense that's getting the notoriety the Jacksonville Jaguars are getting, you tend to be a little cautious the next time you play them. And Big Ben had his worst game of the season this year in 2017 against the Jacksonville Jaguars, throwing those 5 interceptions and what turned out to be a Jacksonville rout in this game. Pittsburgh probably going to be a little more conservative in the game calling here. We saw Blake Bortles last year. We talked about those inexperienced kind of one-hit wonder quarterbacks this year. Blake Bortles looked as bad as any of them last week despite the fact that they were able to beat the Buffalo Bills. I'm going to go under 41.5, Pittsburgh, Jacksonville.
All right, you could have been a weatherman. That was a pretty good analysis there. I'm going to go with a little weather too, and I'm also going to jump on the under Jaguars Steelers, under 41. Last week, of course, Jag just won 10-3 against Buffalo. And the same line here is a 30-9 win by Jacksonville, the regular season. Expect the script to be flipped in this one as the Steelers get their revenge. The weather is supposed to be in the teens with snow and the and wind gusts up to in the 30s. And that will be the same thing as the point total here as Jacksonville, second scoring defense in the NFL, gives up less than 16 a game and rely on their running, and they're not going to let Bortles be throwing it downfield the way he looks. He'll be throwing some short passes and conducive for the under in that one. Also going with the Eagles, +3 at home against the Falcons. As many of you probably heard, the first #1 playoff seed to open the playoffs as an underdog. A lot of the odds makers think it's an overreaction here. The Eagles are more than just Nick Foles taking over for Carson Wentz, a 9-point swing in the spread there. The Eagles have the #4 scoring defense, strong running game, and they've essentially had 3 weeks to prepare for this game, and Nick Foles and the offense will be better here. Atlanta's at their highest. Their stock's as high as it's been since probably last year's Super Bowl, and we all know what that means. So I'm going with the Eagles there. How about we move on to our best bets? Kelly, who's the big money maker?
Well, you just took all my notes on the Eagles, so I was going to say my best bet is Eagles plus 2.5. Like Todd said, first time ever a top-seeded team opens as an underdog at home. That's just absolutely crazy to me. When it first came out Sunday night, my buddy texted me and he goes, "Kelly, what is Atlanta? I can't wait to bet Atlanta." And I go, "Ooh, I can't wait to look at the Eagles." Like, somebody's so excited about Atlanta. I get it. They're looking for that revenge. You know, you look, like you were even talking about Matt Bryant kicking 50-plus yard field goals. Everybody has a reason why Nick Foles is not Carson Wentz. I understand that, but I do not care. I made this Eagles team +1, so I'm getting 1.5 points of value with the home dog, who's covered 5 out of 8 at home this season. I'm going to roll with him and hope that I can be a contrarian and win my best bet.
All right, Matt, who's your best bet?
I'm going to be a little contrarian here myself. I know everybody likes the Minnesota Vikings in this spot. I've heard how loud the stadium is going to be, but I'm going to go with the New Orleans Saints. Look, the most important kind of measuring statistic that people use to determine how a team is actually performing on the field, yards per play. Number 1 in the NFL 2017 yards per play. The New Orleans Saints 6.3 yards per play. Minnesota Vikings 12, 5.4 yards per play. That is a full yard per play differential here, and I'm catching 4.5 in this game. Not too many times we've seen the Saints underdogs the last 2 months. And look, this has just been, if you look at the Super Bowls and the AFC and NFC championships the last decade, it is dominated by elite level quarterbacks. And in this game with the New Orleans Saints, you certainly get the elite level quarterbacks. We talked about how bad the one-hit wonders were last week. Everyone assumes Case Keenum's not going to fall into that bucket. Despite being a career backup, I'm taking 4.5 points with a team that averages a full yard per better on yards per play and as the Hall of Famer at quarterback.
All right, I have to change my pick on. No, we're going head-to-head, Matt. I'm going with the Vikings because the number one metric for me is their record against the spread. And as you mentioned, the Vikings under Mike Zimmer have been a cover machine the last few years. This year they tied with the Patriots for the best spread record in the NFL at 11-5, 6-2 at home, on an 18-6 run at home as home favorites. But I think, Breeze definitely has the edge over Keenum, of course. But Keenum's been decent, and it's not going to come down to him. The biggest difference in the game is going to be the Vikings defense. As you mentioned, Kelly, tops in the league in scoring D, number 2 in passing and rushing defense. They beat the Saints in the opener this year, and also outright winners in the division round on a 31-7-1 against the spread run. That's our spotlight on the NFL playoffs.